Hello, my name is Barry Anderson. I am the moderator of the Trade Ideas Trading Room. Today what I'm going to do is show you how I create a daily watch list. And the watch list is made up of stocks that I found the day before, actually the evening before. So once the market has closed, I do a scan to find stocks that I think might be interesting for the next day. And in this particular window is how I monitor those stocks. And I'm going to start from scratch because a lot of you may not know how to do this. Some of you might, but maybe it's a good refresher for you. So let me just bring up the charting program first and bring up the Trade Ideas Pro icon. And this is how we start. So you go to File, and we're going to create a new top list. And we start from scratch. We load settings. We say OK. So right now, all we have is a bunch of symbols, and who knows what they mean or why they're there. But what we're going to do is we'll start to add some filters, volume filters, price filters, and one other filter, which will help whittle that big universe of stocks down to a manageable number of stocks that we can take a look at. We'll look at the charts for those stocks, and then once we've determined what stocks we like to watch the next day, we'll create a symbol list with those stocks in it. So first thing I do is I right click in the window and I go to configure. Now, if I go to Windows specific filters, for my situation, I'm going to see these filters already. These are filters that I've used over and over again, so they kind of default here. But if you don't have a list like that, all you have to do is go to search. And the first thing we'll search on is volume. And what I'm looking for is the volume today. And I will add that filter. And I only want to see stocks that traded at least 1 million shares a day. So I'll add that in, say OK. So there's the first filter. The second filter will be a price. I like to have a price range. And again, this is just me. So I'll add a filter and I'm going to say between $2 and $80. Pretty wide, I understand, but again, that's just me. And then the last filter that I'll add is I like to see what the change from the close is. So I just have to type in close and in a percent. So the change from the close right here, I'm going to add the filter. And I only want to see stocks that went up at least 5% or went down at least 5%. The way I say OK. So now in English language, this is telling you what the filters that we created are. The price is between 2 and 80. The volume was at least 1 million shares. And the price was up at least 5% or down at least 5% from the previous day's close. Now we'll give this a name. And let's just call it Barry's. Spell my name. Barry's top list 1. I don't know how many of these I've done, so I'm going to call this 1. Now the other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the exchanges and I'm going to uncheck the ARCA because ARCA basically will give me a lot of the ETFs and strange symbols and I don't want to see them. That's just me again, okay? If you want to leave them in, that's fine, but I just want to see the major exchanges. So, or the stocks from the major exchanges. Now, I should have gone back here. I haven't quite finished yet. Now, what I want to do is add columns because obviously there are no columns here. So great, you can see right now we've got a different list of symbols and that's great, but it's going to really help once we have some columns that we can see, what the price is and the volume is and a few other things. So again, I have these symbols or these filters already in place because these are ones I use over and over. If you don't have a list like this already, then you would just go to search and type in volume and price and all the other things. But I'm just going to go back to window specific, back to columns. And here are the columns that I want to use. So I'm going to use the volume column. I want to use the price column, the change from the close. This is an important column for me, the position in the day's range. And the other one I'm going to use is the relative volume, which is basically telling me whether or not a stock, how abnormal has the stock traded today in terms of its normal volume. So once that is all done, now I can click on OK. Quick check to see the filters are still correct. Of course they are. I haven't changed them, but it's always good to monitor that. And now I can say OK. And now we have a list of stocks that fit the filter requirements. Now the first thing I'm going to do, I like to see stocks that have, the way I like to organize it is I want to see the stocks that have closed closest to the high of the day as possible, all the way down to closest to the low of the day as possible. So I'm going to sort this column, and I just double click on the icon up here, and now you can see it is sorted. And of course, so anything that has, it's almost right to the end, there's a little white gap here, so that means it almost closed at the high of the day. In fact, if you just, if I do this, let me just take out the graphical indicator, and you can see that it's very close to the high. 100% would be closing at the high of the day. So let me just, sorry, let me just get the text, or sorry. Let me just get the graphical indicator back. And you notice that the other thing that I've done is I've changed this to the text headings. So if you don't know how to do that, this is if I check text headers, uncheck it, we just get the icons. Or I'm going to leave it right now as the icons. Another window that I'm going to do, I'll change it to text headers. But once you use Trade Ideas a lot, you just know that that icon is for the position in the day's range, and this is for the change from the close, price, and volume, etc. But now what we're going to do, though, is I want to change the color scheme of this. So what I'm going to do is, it's already in some kind of a color configuration, but I'm going to change it. Show you how I do that. So if you have something up here already, which you probably do, I'm going to go delete all. You see how now it changes all to white, no color. Now what I do is I'm going to sort, I'm going to, color it on the change from the close. So I normally start by checking the middle box here. Brings up this palette, and I check the white, say OK, and now this is white, all white. So now I'm going to check the greater than, in fact, I'm sorry. First I'm going to check, or I'm going to indicate 10. So what I want to do is have my eyes drawn to the stocks that are greater than 10% up. So I'm going to go greater than 10, will be, say OK, will be green, in a green color. So I add edit. You notice how this list already has changed to green. For the stocks, sorry, this is the column we're looking at for the stocks that are up at least 10%. So obviously this is 12, 37, etc. Now, I'd like to also see the stocks that are, draw my eyes to the ones that are less than 10%. So I'm going to start, I'll start exactly the same way. I'll sort of zero it out, as I call it. Okay, now this time, I'm going to type in -10. And we're going to go less than, and I'll assign it this color. And I'll say OK, add edit. And now you can see your eyes are drawn to the stocks that are less than 10 or greater than 10% down. And for me, now there is a way to have all this shaded in various, like, as it gets closer to 12% or 10%, the shading will vary. Personally, I don't like that, but you can certainly do that if you want. But I'm just showing a very simple way that I do it. My eyes now are drawn right to the stocks that are really of interest to me. Now the other, I'll just say OK now. And the other thing I can show you is, again, in your release of Trade Ideas right now, you probably still don't have this version, but here's another thing that you're going to be able to do. I've shown this in previous videos, but I'll do it again. You can put custom colors for the actual column, for the column itself. So I'm going to delete all again. And now this is going to be on the relative volume. So what I want to do, I'll zero, as I call it, out again. Select white. This time I'm going to put 6 in here. So anything in this column that is going to be greater than 6, In other words, the relative volume is greater than 6. Let's give it a color first. Let's call it blue. Okay, and now we're going to add, edit, and then say OK. So now you see what's happened. Anything in this column that is greater than 6, my eye is immediately drawn to it. So these are stocks that traded quite abnormally during the day. So I've sort of got two color sequences going. I've got the sequence where stocks greater than 10%, less than 10%, and where the relative volume is high. So that's great. Now the next thing to do is to take a look at each one of those stocks one by one. And I'm not going to take a look, I'm not going to go through the entire list, but I'm going to go through a few of them, and you're going to see maybe my thought process and why I pick certain stocks over others. Now, one of the reasons why I like to see the stocks first that have traded near the high of the day is this reason. So here's the XPR. Now, I know EXPR, let me just back this out a little bit. There. Well, not really. XPR had earnings today, and obviously the earnings weren't good. Tremendous volume in it. Let me just get this out of the way a little bit so we can see. Here's where it opened, and obviously it opened down quite a bit, but it recovered all of the day. So it literally almost closed near the high of the day. So the sellers were in charge at the beginning, but the buyers took over. And again, this stock almost basically closed at the high of the day. So what does that mean? Well, maybe it means that there was an overreaction to whatever the earnings figures were. And so I will actually watch this stock Monday morning. And it's got a bit of a gap to fill. It's almost $2 on a $12.60, almost $2. So that'd be a tremendous price or increase if it did, percentage increase if it did manage to fill some of this gap. So I will watch this stock. CMCM. What's its story? Well, obviously a new issue. It looks like it's about 3 weeks old. I don't know about this stock. I'll put it in the list, but if I look here, this is the high of the first day, 1647. You can see that on Thursday. This is well, when people are watching this webinar, they won't know what day this is necessarily. So this is the day before today. Okay, right here. This is today's candle. So this is the day before. So you can see it broke above, but there's some continuation. So who knows if there's still going to be some volatility with this particular issue. Obviously, people have decided to take it higher than what it opened at and on its initial IPOs, on the IPOs. So I will watch this just to see what happens. LNG. Now, LNG has had 2 tremendous days in a row, tremendous volume days. Now, typically, there's a rule of thumb, I guess, an old adage that stocks can go up 3 days in a row, but sometime in the third day they could start to come down. So we'll see. I think this has got enough behind it. Remember, this is the daily chart. This is the weekly chart. So you can see there's nothing really stopping it in terms of resistance on either chart. So I will also watch this chart. Now this is Cheniere Energy, and it's obviously there's an affiliation here with it. I'm sorry, the link didn't quite work. So there we go. This is Cheniere Energy Partners. Another tremendous day. It closed over the whole number, which is always good. Now the other one, if you remember, had 2 big days up. This is the first day, big day up for this particular issue, or this stock. So yeah, I'll watch it. We'll have to see what happens. Now, I have to admit that I did try to trade this today, and I almost got killed in it. Was up in this area, was waiting for a break over the 27. Now, it happened at the end of the day, but I got out about right here when it didn't happen, and it really sold off. But I will watch this. Anytime a stock can break that whole number, it's psychological, and so it's certainly worth watching. CYTR. Let's take a look at this one. Now, CYTR is a little bit interesting. This is the high of 429 a couple of days ago, so it's not that far from that high. Now, here's the gap that it could potentially fill. So we're talking 634 on a $4 stock. That is obviously a great percentage increase if it could start to fill that gap. So I will watch that stock too. DRL. Let's take a look at DRL. Now, DRL, I will watch it. Tremendous volume today, as you can see. It had it went from 9.82 down to $2. So, I mean, it had a tremendous decrease in not that long. Well, one day it took it down and then it kept going down. Had that little rally, had a fade back, and now maybe it's trying to recover some. It has to get over here. So, 386 to 462. I don't know if it's going to be worth watching on Monday, but it doesn't harm to put it in the list. RNA is another one. And I think you can see now, look, RNA has had 3 big days up. And remember, I told you the old adage that 3 days up, somewhere during the third day, it could come down. Well, maybe this is it. I mean, it hit a high up here, and now it has fallen down, but it hasn't fallen down that much. Obviously, what draws my eye to it is this weekly chart, and you can see, I mean, $23, $24, and it was killed down to $4. So we'll have to see. I mean, this has to be watched. I don't know what's going to happen, but it has to be watched. And maybe there's still enough optimism, enthusiasm that we could have another day up. FEYE is another one that caught my eye, and you can see here that another one that just got trashed, $96 all the way down to $26. It's been rising over the last few days, but you can see that the last 3 days, now here are the 2 days previous to today, the last 2 days basically were kind of flat. And then today is the first day that it started down. So what does that mean? Does that mean that the bloom is off, that this pull up is over, and now it's going to start to test the lows again? I don't know, but it's worth having it on a list. And let's go down to the bottom here, XEEXXI. Now, here's another one. It's hard to say what's going to happen here. Here's the support area of about $20, so 21.44. So it has about $1.50 if it wants to go down to this level. Is this just a pullback and then we'll have a continuation? Hard to say. It's a pretty big candle. It's wiped out a lot of the gains. People might get a little bit nervous about it. A lot of volume today. So again, that's something that I certainly will watch on Monday to see what happens. And I think that is it. Now, here's one, OVTI, as an example. Now, this one had why it's not going on the list. Now, the reason is I hesitate because, I mean, obviously look at this daily and look at the weekly. There's no resistance above it, but it really sold off 23.42. So it sold off about $1 from its high. So huge volume though. So, but what I don't like is that it did sell off its highs. And so what does that mean? That means that it's going to, it could get back up to its highs and then maybe it struggles. Or maybe, it opens about here and then it gets halted at its highs or the resistance. A lot of people won't trade stocks unless they break the previous day's high. So that's why it's not on my list right now. And it could be completely proven wrong, and it could show up on one of my other patterns or other strategies that I look at. But right now we've got a list of stocks, and so what I'm going to do is, in fact, there was one more. I think there was one more that I wanted to take a look at. And that was, I don't know why I can't find it. Oh, here we are, RTRX. There was one more. Yes, you can see why. Again, $23, really killed down to $10, and huge volume today. Now, the only problem with this is you can see that yesterday it had the down day. Today, yes, it was up, but remember, what this means is that this is where it opened and it got as high as 1741, but then the sellers really took over and drove it down again. So what does that mean? Does that mean that it's going to continue down, or will the buyer step back in? So cannot have to look at this stock just because of the volume and also this huge gap that it could potentially fill if the buyers decide to get back into it again. So that's it for the stocks. Okay, we're going to we'll limit it to I think it's about 9 or 10 stocks right now. So the next step is to actually create the symbol list. So to create the symbol list, just got to find the icon. There we go. So we go to Tools, and we go to symbol lists, and we go to create new list. And we'll call this Barry's new list. And usually gets that. Now, you may not have any symbol lists at all. So if this is the first one, you're going to see it immediately. It'll show up at the bottom though. So now I just go to the edit list. Now I'll just type in the stocks. EXPR. It doesn't take too long. Not the greatest typer or typist. DRX, CQH, FEYE, RNA, oops, RNA, EXXY, LNG, DRL, CMCM. I think that's it. So I say OK. And there are 10 stocks in the list, so that's not too bad. So I just close it down. So now what I have to do is create a watch list for these stocks that I can monitor the next day. So now we do basically the same type of thing. We go to File. Now this time instead of a top list, now this is going to be an alert window. And I will start from scratch. I'll load the settings. I will say OK. Now it's asking me, do I want to return to the configure window? I'm going to say no, and I'll show you why. We're going to start completely from scratch. So don't worry about what's going to happen here. You're going to see some stocks listed here. But now we're going to start to add in how we want to monitor, or first of all, we're going to add in the list that we want to monitor. So now it's a symbol list. We go to symbol list. Now, if you look down here, you're not going to see that symbol list. So I have to add in the existing list. And it's an existing list because I just made it. So it's called Barry's new list. I found it down here. And now you can see, now this is in alphabetical order, so I just check it here. And you can see this is a drop-down menu. And you can pick from all symbols, only the following list, exclude the following list, or just a single symbol. So obviously what I want to do is only the following lists. I want to create this window here to only look at the stocks that we found from our scan. So now we do the same, sort of the same thing, but we don't have to add any, I'm not going to add any filters this time, but I do want to select alerts. Now these alerts are already here. I'm going to uncheck the heartbeat. And these alerts are already here, but these are the ones that I want. Now, if you didn't have them in this list, you would just do the search. All right, so the search, and say you wanted to find what I just saw there, the pre-market highs and lows. There they are. Okay, but let me just go back here. It's a little bit simpler. And I do want to see the pre-market highs and lows because, excuse me, these stocks, remember, were really active Friday. And so will they be active in the pre-market Monday morning? Who knows? So if you check this, then if the stocks start hitting pre-market highs or pre-market lows, you're going to be notified of that just with an alert. So why not watch them in the pre-market? I mean, if you don't get up in time or you don't care about monitoring them in the pre-market, that's fine. It doesn't hurt to check this though. And the other one I want to check, there are two I want to check. I do want to check for the new high and the new low during the day. So that's how I'm going to monitor the stocks. It's as simple as that. I do want to see the pre-market highs, the pre-market lows, and then once the market opens, I do want to see the new highs and lows as they're being met. Same thing, just give it a name, and we'll call it Barry's new list. And that is it. Now you can see CQH is in here and already. And what's happening is if a stock makes here's the color sequence for here. If a stock makes a low, in other words, if it gets activated because it's made a new low, then it's going to be this color. You can change the color, of course, but I'm going to leave it right here. If it makes a new high, it's going to turn green. And now the only other thing I want to do is add some columns here. Same thing. I mean, I do want to see the volume. just check on the columns. And so I'd like to see well, I've got the price here. So we add in the volume. I'll add in the change from the close. I'll add in where it is in the position and range. Now, obviously, I don't really need this because it's only going to trigger a new high or a new low. So obviously, if it's a new high, it's going to be right at the high of the day. But I like to put that in anyway because I just like to do it. So now we've got this set up. And as I said before, I'm not sure if I said it before. I've make sure I did say this before. Here's the text headers. And again, if you want to see it in English language, again, you just check down here in one of the numbers and check on text headers, and then you'll get the English language of what's happening here. Now, the only other thing that we can do is, again, I can add in a custom color for actually not in the position and range. So I don't want to do it in position and range. I want to do it on the close. So I'll do the custom color for the change on the close. Now there's only one stock in here, so it's not going to be that meaningful right now, but I'm going to white it out just like I did before. And then remember, change from the close. And I'm going to say I can tell right here the change is 10.8. So let's just put 8 here. And I'll put a blue color coding, add, add. And now you can see that I've color coded it. So anything where the change from the close is greater than 8 is going to be in blue. And obviously you can trust me that if the change from the close was only 6, that column would not be in blue. So that is it. I mean, that's really as simple as it is. Now, this is a daily watch list that I use to find the stocks again that are up or down 5%. Traded a million shares. So I do the scan from the day before, and I will monitor this list. But of course, you can create a list of whatever you want. If you wanted to see stocks, if you did an evening scan the day before of stocks that were up or down $2 that traded a million shares, and you wanted to monitor those stocks the next day, well, you'd go through the same sort of exercise of building that top list and putting those sort of filters in. If you wanted to see stocks that were down 3 days in a row, but today was up and actually closed above yesterday's high, you could do something like that and create a watch list of those sort of stocks. So, really it's as much as your imagination can muster of the types of lists that you want. So hopefully that gave you a good insight on how to do this. I decided to do it right from scratch. Last summer I did a webinar that covered some of this, but I did not go through the nuts and bolts of it. So hopefully that gives you that tells you exactly what you need to know to create, first of all, a daily watch list if that's what you want, but also to create symbol lists and all that. So thank you for your time, and let me just exit out of this webinar, and I hope to see you in the trading room.